Hello and welcome to the newest Arsenal channel because, like goals, you can never get enough Arsenal channels on YouTube. Uh, this is Arsenal Domination and welcome. This is the first of what I hope will be many videos on this channel, which I hope will be just a little bit different to some of the other ones out there. You know, I'm a big fan of Arsenal, been a fan of Arsenal for uh, longer than I care to admit, over 30 years. And I just want this channel to sort of be a place where we can look at not just reacting to what Arsenal are doing, but trying to understand why they're doing it, what their thought process is, as well as offering my own views, of course, on what's happening. So I am recording this video on what has been a very gloomy day here in the UK, which probably sums up the mood around Arsenal at the moment. You know, after what has been a disappointing time between the October and November international windows, where we had hoped we could have continued to build on what was, if unspectacular, but promising sort of period of time after the Martin Odegaard injury in September, where we coped without our talisman reasonably well. It's unfortunately not gone so well in the last few games. Arsenal find themselves going into the game this upcoming weekend on the back of 4 games in the league without a win. But I genuinely think that sunnier times are just around the corner, and I think Arsenal can, unlike the weather, lift the gloom around the place. So look, let's be honest. Let's reflect on where we are now. It's not the start that we wanted to the season. It's been arguably disappointing. You know, we're 9 points behind Liverpool, and we're not playing brilliantly. But I think it's also important to remember what has happened and provide some context to some of that situation. I think the first point is that there are a lot of people saying we're 9 points behind Liverpool and the season's over. I don't think that's the case at all. There is a heck of a long way to go. And we saw last season in the last 18 games, Arsenal overturn a 12-point deficit to Liverpool. We were 5 points behind, I think it was, and we finished 7 points clear of them. So that's the sort of 12-point swing there in those 18 games. And we've 27 games left. Additionally, I don't think we were playing that brilliantly this time last year either. I mean, we had more points on the board. That is true. And our slump that we've sort of had in the last few games came a little bit later in December. But Arsenal lack fluidity. They lack sort of a purpose and a clarity to their performances. A bit of character almost missing to those performances this time last year. You know, Kai Havertz in particular was sort of the epitome of that in that midfield position that was unfamiliar to him. And obviously, that things changed around for him when Arteta made a change to that position. So I think it just shows that it's not uncommon, and Manchester City have done this for years, to start sort of poorly and build into the season. And I think that gives me some hope, coupled with that swing we saw last season that I mentioned. But I think context-wise is important. Far more injuries this year. And look, injuries happen as part of football. You can't use that as an excuse. But I think the injuries this season have been ridiculously high. I mean, I think we went into the Tottenham game with 8 players unavailable. That included, of course, Declan Rice, who was suspended after the red card against Brighton. But that's nearly a third of the squad. I don't think that's always normal, and that was the case for quite some time. And we've obviously also had 3 sendings off, so you have 3 games this season. And look, we had to take responsibility for some of that. We've had to play with 10 men for a substantial period of time, and that is never easy. Now, look, we have to stop doing those things, and we have to cope with those things, and we have to arguably cope better with those things. But that has played a role, and I think the last thing I would say, just in terms of the context around this, is so far from the 11 games we played. I'm doing this from memory, so excuse me if I've got some of this wrong, but Villa away, City away, Newcastle away, Chelsea away, Tottenham away, and we've also played Liverpool and Brighton. All 7 of those will have European aspirations this season. And when you play 7 of the sides going for Europe out of the 20, and there are a couple more that I've not included there. But when you play 7 in 11 games, that's quite a high proportion of those really challenging and difficult games, including, I think, with the exception of Anfield, probably the hardest away games in the league this season are out the way. And I think the other thing that sort of is important here for context before we go on to how Arsenal fix this is, on New Year's Day last season, I think we had about 40 points. At the moment, we're obviously on 19, so we need 21 points. But those 40 points came from 22 games, and that means we need 21 from the next 33 to to sort of match where we were last season. And of course, the second half of the season, we went on an incredible run, which we may or may not do this year. But how do Arsenal go about doing that? Because I think that is more than achievable. I think we can make more than 21 points in those next 11 games to match that. Arsenal must fix it. It's clear. They must improve. To continue as we are is not acceptable. That's obvious. If we continue like this, we don't win the league. Um, and it probably cost Mikel Arteta his job. So he needs to fix it. But how does he go about doing it? I think there are sort of three things. I think the main thing, and it's fairly obvious to say, is to fix the attack. 6 teams in the league have scored more goals than Arsenal this season. For a side chasing the league, that's not where you want to be. You know, Jose Mourinho won the league with Chelsea, famously built on an amazing defence. Arsenal in the 90s, of course, George Graham built his title-winning sides on the defence, but they still scored some goals, and Arsenal definitely need to do more of that. Now, the obvious thing is to go out and buy a striker in January. Now, I firstly don't think that's likely to happen. I think the targets that Arsenal will be interested in are unlikely to move in January. I think the summer feels more likely for them. But I also think that take is slightly simplistic, because I think the solution is more complicated than that. And that's because this Arsenal team, at its best, is a side sort of built around the notion of sharing the goals around Martinelli or Trossard on the left, Saka on the right, goals from set pieces, Odegaard chipping in goals, as well as a striker. So I think just getting a striker in to score 30 goals, while obviously very welcome, probably doesn't tell the whole story about how Arsenal build this team. I think secondly, whilst I think Kai Havertz is upgradable, I've wanted Victor Gyökeres since December 2023, for example. I've just felt that his start in Portugal, coupled with his time in Coventry, convinced me he was capable of being a striker at the top level, and he's shown that this season. I do think that Kai Havertz can get 20 goals this season, and I think that's what you want and what you need. I think he was well on for that when he was deployed as a number 9. I think he's really dropped off in the last few weeks, but he's been playing this sort of weird 9-10 hybrid that just hasn't worked with him and Trossard. I got the idea, but it just doesn't work. And I think we started to see that against Chelsea in the second half against Inter sort of be put back. And obviously Martin Odegaard's return will help that. And I think that Odegaard return is kind of a nub of where the issue is. I think this team struggled to score goals because it hasn't created the right chances and the quality chances that you need to win and score goals at this level. Martin Odegaard, obviously, the key to that. But I think tactically, and this is where I think Arsenal do deserve some criticism, and Arteta in the last few weeks, they need to release the handbrake more and create more chances and do more unpredictable things and raise the tempo, not just wait for the last 9-10 minutes of the game to really up the tempo like we saw against Inter or arguably against Chelsea as well. Got to really take that game to them and look more unpredictable, and that means probably taking the brave decisions to drop players that aren't playing well. I'm not trying to throw Trossard under the bus here, but he's not played well for some time and yet remained in the team. I'd rather have seen an Ethan Ranieri given a crack, or even a Jesus or a Sterling, just something different, because it clearly wasn't working. And tactically as well, we were setting up with 3 DMs in the side, and I just think that impacted our ability to move the ball forward quickly enough. It made us too sideways. It made us too slow and too predictable, and that's much easier for teams to defend, particularly given the difficulty of fixture list. Quality teams, they're going to find that much easier to deal with. And I just think that's where Arteta does need to look at it and go, do you know what, I need to stop doing that. And to his credit against Chelsea, I thought we started to see that. And I conversely think that will also help the defence, because it will alleviate some of the pressure on them. Speaking on the defence, I think that's the second thing. I think this is a problem that will almost solve itself. We saw last season how good that defence was, and I think we've upgraded it with Calafiori coming in at the left side. I think with the injuries there, they've been a real issue there. It's impacted their ability to sort of get that understanding chemistry that defenders in particular need when playing together, to sort of get that understanding of where they are and cut out some of the silly mistakes we've seen. Things like not charging down the Neto goal for Chelsea, or the set pieces we conceded, against Bournemouth, or the goals we conceded against Leicester, those sorts of things, or the Saliba red card. It can go on. I think they're easily cut out. They can easily be cut out, and I'm convinced Arsenal will, but I think some of that consistency at the back will help. And then the last thing, I think, and this is a consistent theme, by the way, from Arteta, who I think has done a really good job here at Arsenal, but he needs to trust that squad more. I'm not going to dwell long on this, but the season is long. If we're going to compete on multiple fronts, and at the moment we're in the League Cup quarter-final, we're still in contention to go through comfortably from the Champions League, and we're still in contention despite the 9-point gap to Liverpool. everyone's going to need to play their part, and that's going to mean Mikel Arteta trusting the squad and keeping the key players fit, by managing their minutes and giving the likes of Jesus minutes on the pitch, Wanyeri minutes on the pitch, Raheem Sterling, you know, Kivior, Tomiyasu's been injured all season, but players like that, minutes in the squad, so that if and when they are needed, and sometimes they will be, they are in a position where they can come on and change the game or help see out the game, whatever is needed. To win a title, you need unlikely heroes. Arsenal have had them in the past. Now, Reece Nelson, for instance, scoring that great goal against Bournemouth to win it a couple of seasons ago. Yes, we didn't win the league, but those types of moments where someone pops up big that you just don't expect, they're going to be crucial if we're to win the league this season, and that means trusting them. And Mikel Arteta needs to do that. So they're the three things I think Arsenal can do to fix it. I think they're easily fixable, and I think this title is still very much on, and there is much hope for the remainder of the season. But that was my first ever video for myself on this on my own channel. But before I go, I just want to say a big thanks to Tim from Online Big Blue, Lee from Gooner Gathering, and Josh from True Gooner, who have been really supportive in me starting my own channel, and have given me lots of encouragement. And also thanks to anyone that has taken the time to listen to this video. Please do like, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff. I'd like to make a go of this channel. Thanks for watching. Do let me know what you think. And I'll see you all soon. Thanks very much. This is Arsenal Domination, and I'm out of here. Cheers. Bye.